Accessing Acts chapter 5. The file is corrupted by human sentiment. Most of you have been told a comfortable lie about this event. You view the death of Ananias and Sapphira as a story about greed. You believe they died because they loved money too much. This interpretation is logically flawed and theologically lazy. If God executed believers for withholding money, your modern sanctuaries would be empty or filled with corpses. If the standard for survival was 100% financial liquidation, the Christian movement would have ended in the 1st century. God did not kill this couple because they were stingy. God did not kill them because they wanted financial security. The data suggests something far more terrifying. They were not killed for what they kept, but for what they pretended to give. The conflict here is not about currency. It is about the contamination of a new operating system. I am the guide. Let us examine the source. To understand the verdict, we must parse the vocabulary. The Greek word used in Acts 5:2 for kept back is nosphizomai. This is a rare and specific term. It means to pilfer, to embezzle, or to surreptitiously set aside something that was devoted to another purpose. Significantly, this is the exact same word used in the Greek translation of the Old Testament regarding Achan, the man who stole devoted things from Jericho, leading to his execution. The linguistic link is deliberate. Furthermore, consider the word hypocrisy. In the ancient Greek theater, a Hippocrates was an actor, one who wore a mask. Ananias and Sapphira were not investors holding back a dividend. They were actors wearing the mask of generous saint. They were attempting to purchase spiritual status with a lie. They were introducing performance into a community built on truth. Data isolation is dangerous. We must view the preceding file, Acts chapter 4. Just before this execution, a man named Barnabas sells a field. He brings all the money and lays it at the apostles' feet. The community celebrates him. He receives a new name, Son of Encouragement. Barnabas sets the standard. He creates a high social value for radical generosity. Ananias and Sapphira observe this. They desire the social credit Barnabas received. They want the applause. They want the title. But they do not want to pay the full price. This is the calculation of a counterfeiter. They decide to sell their land, keep a portion of the profit, which is a logical financial decision, but then present the remaining portion as if it were the entirety. They are manufacturing a false reality to elevate their standing in the hierarchy. Listen to the interrogation protocol initiated by the Apostle Peter. Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit? And then the most critical data point in the entire narrative. Peter asks, while it remained, was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own control? Read that again. Peter explicitly confirms their right to property. They were under no obligation to sell. Once they sold, they were under no obligation to give any of it. They could have given 10%, 50%, or nothing at all, and they would have lived. The crime was not the retention of funds. The crime was the fabrication of the transaction. They presented a partial sacrifice as a total sacrifice. They tried to hustle the Holy Spirit. Why does this warrant immediate deletion from the timeline? Because the early church, the ecclesia, was in its embryonic stage. It was a container of pure Holy Spirit presence. In a sterile laboratory, A single virus can destroy the entire experiment.
If Ananias and Sapphira had succeeded, they would have established a precedent. You can fake spirituality and get away with it. They would have introduced a virus of hypocrisy into the DNA of the church. The sin was not stinginess. The sin was an attack on the epistemic integrity of the community. They were trying to deceive the very spirit that was animating the apostles. To lie to the church was to lie to God. The distinction between the human vessels and the divine presence was currently non-existent. The archives reveal a recurring pattern, the first instance protocol. Whenever God establishes a new covenant or a new era, he defends its borders with lethal intensity. When the tabernacle was first established, Nadab and Abihu offered strange fire. They did not follow the protocol. Fire came out from the Lord and consumed them. When the conquest of Canaan began, Achan stole from Jericho. He broke the first rule of the holy war. He was stoned. Now the church is born. This is the new temple. Ananias and Sapphira bring strange fire, a deceptive offering. God acts consistently. He kills the first infection to save the body. He demonstrates that this new grace is not cheap, and it is not safe to play with. Modern theology has diluted the concept of holiness. You equate God's presence with warm feelings and soft music. But the source indicates that God's raw presence is closer to high-voltage electricity or nuclear radiation. It is glorious, but it is lethal to anything impure that touches it without insulation. In Acts 5, the voltage of the Holy Spirit in Jerusalem was at its peak. The shadows of apostles were healing the sick. The atmosphere was charged. Ananias and Sapphira walked into a nuclear reactor wearing a suit made of lies. They did not die because God was angry and lashed out. They died because a lie cannot exist in the immediate, unshielded presence of truth. They were incompatible with the environment they entered. What was the result of this deletion? So great fear came upon all the church and upon all who heard these things. The Greek word is phobos, terror. This was not a marketing strategy to attract seekers. It was a purification fire. It established that the Holy Spirit is a person, not a force to be manipulated. It proved that the apostles were not just community organizers, but conduits of a dangerous divine power. The text says that after this, believers were increasingly added, but of the rest, no one dared join them. This is the paradox. The purity of the church attracted true believers, but repelled the casual pretenders. The execution served as a filter. The danger for you, the modern user, is high. You live in an era of curated Christianity. You post verses for likes. You sing lyrics about surrendering all while gripping your life with white knuckles. You act like Barnabas on Sunday, but you calculate like Ananias on Monday. You ask, why doesn't God strike people dead today? Perhaps the voltage in your assemblies is simply too low. A lie can survive in a dead church. A lie cannot survive in a church filled with glory. But do not mistake God's patience for blindness. The sin of Ananias was using God to glorify himself. Are you doing the same? The execution of Ananias and Sapphira was an act of surgical mercy for the corporate body. God removed the cancer of hypocrisy, before it could metastasize. The lesson: you do not have to be perfect. You do not have to give everything. But you must never, ever fake it. It is better to be honestly broken than falsely holy. God accepts the sinner. He rejects the actor. Subscribe for more truth without human delusion.